Hi everyone, welcome back to our show, All Things Autism and More. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to many of us on this couch, and I'm sure to many of you watching and listening at home. It's where our children, our special children, specifically those on the spectrum, leave, they go off, they wander.
They escape.
They escape. We might call it escape, but it's not escape, but where they sort of wander off and go missing. So oftentimes we see on social media, oh, this child has gone missing, they can't speak, they're nonverbal, if found, do this. So we thought it pertinent that we should talk about it, maybe share some of our experiences and offer up maybe some methods or things you can do to prevent it or even to shorten the time they're away or missing so that it's not for days or weeks and so on. And in that way. Patricia, do you want to talk about it?
As someone who has lived it.
Yeah, someone who has lived it. How have you experienced it? Huh?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I think it's every parent's biggest fear, like to have your child missing, like whether it's for a few minutes or a few hours or even days. You can't even function as a human being.
Yes, and this is any parent.
And this is any parent. It doesn't matter if your child, is on the spectrum or is neurotypical. No parent wants to ever be in that scenario. So it's a very, very frightening experience, but it is very real in our community. And we've had, like Claire said, we've had so many experiences shared with us of other parents who have had to go through this, not had to go through this, I don't know what the word I should have used was there, who have experienced it. So for me, it was not, Harvey left the house.
At what age?
At about 2. Yeah, about 2 years old. He literally just walked out of the gate. You know that, like, the gates, you know how our gates are usually made is that you have the smaller one for walking through, and then of course there's the larger one. So the smaller one is usually open because of, I actually don't know why, but the smaller one is usually open, or at least its locking functions are not very difficult for a kid to figure out sometimes. So he literally just opened it and walked out. That's not even the worst part. The worst part is no one noticed. It was after like a few minutes where everyone was like, okay, where is Harvey? And no one knew where he was. And then we had to start thinking, where could he have gone? And at that point, you're not even thinking that it's possible for a kid to consider walking out of the house. So you have to also come to terms with that fact. Anyway, it was a very confusing time. It was very scary. I remember it wasn't even I who went to look for him. It was an uncle of his who was staying with us at that time. So his uncle just went out and started walking, and he was literally asking people in the neighborhood, have you seen a little boy? And he found him at, like, let's say maybe 3 houses down. And thankfully he had entered into a gate of a really friendly home. They were very friendly. They were very kind to him. Of course, they didn't know how to help him. And he had just been there for, like, let's say a few minutes. So they were not very sure that he was lost or anything. He seemed to be very comfortable with what he was doing. And I think, thank God that he actually ended up being in a place that was quite friendly and welcoming, because he never had to suffer or anything of that sort. But you guys know, we all know stories of where, days on end and you can't find that child, and people whose children have gone missing and they're found in other districts and in other places, and then they're found, hungry, or they've been walking miles and miles. It's very, very, very scary. So I think the reason why it's so important for us to talk about this particular subject is the reality of it, really. It's not so much that it's something that we wish for anyone to go through. We don't. But it's a reality that we have to prepare just in case. And I think one of the things that I learned from my particular experience was, I've been open before in this show about how I had issues with taking my son places, going out in the public and what. And I think for my son, one of the issues was that he was very confined, like he was always at home. He never really experienced a lot of the outside world, save for school and maybe sometimes church, maybe a few visits to family here and there, but more or less he was always homebound. So I know he was curious and, eager to find out what's going on outside this gate, yeah? So I think for other parents, maybe we need to consider giving our children loads more experiences of outside our homes, even if it's just taking a walk. Remember, Maggie's mentioned that her son and the father go for a walk, and it's something that he expects to be done. Like it's a family ritual, so to speak. Things like that help with their mental health a lot, because they're human like us. They don't want to be caged. They don't want to be restricted from movement and such, and they are growing and they are learning and they are seeing all these things happening around them. So it should encourage us to, take our children out into these spaces, let them see the world while we are with them, lest they decide to do it on their own. But of course, there are other reasons and other things that could lead to that. And I'm going to let the rest speak a bit.
How was it with Yona?
Well, for Yona, interestingly, he has never left home. But I think it's because from the onset, we've always given him the opportunity to go for events. Like from a very young age, remember, we used to take him for the mentorship.
That's true.
Yeah, to go for camp. We've really given him that opportunity to go out with his friends and all. But I would also speak for the neurotypical children, because much as Yona hasn't, Sean did. And it's more of also checking in on what your child is going through. Because they could be going through certain pressures and they just feel like they want to leave the house. So sometimes you may focus your attention on this child and then you forget that there are these others who have pressures. And I came to learn that there was a lot of strain coming on him, being the second born. So it was like all the responsibility was now sitting with him and he felt it was too much. So we had to also take a step back and now pay attention to him, take him for counseling, to help him to overcome that. So I don't think it is just our special needs children, but all our children.
Who need, I think I just want to continue on from what Patricia was saying about that exposure. It's very, very important. Even at 2. People might think that the child is young, but walk out with them. If you live near a shopping center, we do it with our other children, the neurotypical ones. You take them to the supermarket. I see people in the supermarkets with them in the trolleys, walking around with them. Take this one along as well. Expose them. They might throw a tantrum, but it's all right. They'll deal with it. They'll get used. They might cry for an item. I think we have to expect these things. And also gauge your mood. We're not saying do it every day, but at least maybe once a week. And the child will get to expect it and get used to it and say, we're going. Get your shoes. Tell them, make it an event. Get your shoes. We're going to do this and do that and take them out. I think that helps to make them less curious or want to wander off. But even I think the walking is helpful in that people in the community get to know people in the surrounding areas. Hey, that child who lives in that is like that. Or they will know their child. And then I think it also helps. I think our generation, we've become very isolated. I remember growing up, we knew all our neighbors. So even you as the child growing up, you knew if you messed up, for example, that night you are not going to survive. The punishment, because the neighbor has already told. So even you tread carefully walking into the home. They saw me and I'm in trouble. I think our challenge now is we don't know the people in our communities. We're in gated environments, we are closed in, we don't know. So I think maybe it's also a challenge for us to start to get to know our community, get involved, get to know, so that people also have a heart for you, for one. And if they see your child, they can bring the child back home. They know where to direct the child, because many of these children, remember, are nonverbal well into their teenage or whatever. So I think that can be.
Yeah, and also if, say, you happen to come across somebody, you can tell if somebody is lost or wandering around. Maybe we also need to be aware of how we can help them. Maybe someone with special needs, probably you could hug them if that is possible. If maybe the person is proving to be a bit aggressive, then you look for the nearest authorities where it can be reported. And with all the social media that we have right now, we could take a picture and put it on social media so that the person can be helped. And again, don't take pictures when they're in a compromising state. Have respect for them. Yes.
And they're vulnerable already, yes? Like how you said, how you went into someone's home. They walk out and then they're going to walk into the next home because it looks like home for them. They're looking for, that's my safe space. So they'll come in. And then especially if they've been walking for long, they're going to be hungry. So they're going to try and eat food. Or maybe they'll lie down, or they'll want to turn on the TV if they enter, if perchance they enter. I think our instinct, because of, again, I'll go back to that, we've become so individualized, so isolated. Somebody comes in, it's a threat. So we automatically think it's a thief, and then also they'll be aggressive because suddenly they're out of their depth. They feel unsafe, so they might display behavior that's not conventional, and the instinct is to harm them. And you misjudge them, yes.
And basically what we are saying is that not every person who is lost or wandering about is a thief or is looking to harm anyone, or let's be human about this thing. Let's try and first gauge situations and see the person you're dealing with, because very many scenarios where we've had stories that our children have suffered or have been subject to beating or harassment, it's been the older children, because naturally we look at older people and we think that this person ought to know what they are doing, they ought to be aware of their surroundings, and yet this is a spectrum. Everyone is on a different level, and some of our children are not able to actually behave like the adults they've grown to be. So we're just requesting for the community to have a little more compassion and also make us relevant. Let the fact that you watch this show mean that you are now educated, that you know better, that you are aware of scenarios such as these, that you can even educate other people. So if you're driving down the street or you're walking around and you see somebody who doesn't seem to be, comfortable in the surrounding they are in, or maybe they are lost, and I'm not saying put yourself in any danger should that happen, but in the event that this is a distressed person and they are maybe going through some sort of harassment because of their community or or being misunderstood by the community, please step in and defend them.
Or at the very least, report to the nearest authorities and say, there's a situation over there, can you handle it? And yes.
Because the police is aware of people who are on the spectrum. They've been trained, they know about autism, they know that there's different special needs out there, and that there are some missing cases. The cases are so many that they are now aware of people who have autism and have been known to, to leave home and be missing. So they have protocols in place and stuff. And we are hoping that by the time you see this episode, I hope that we'll run the contacts for you. For the police contacts, should you want to have them on hand, or should you even be in a scenario where you have like a shop or a restaurant or any establishment there is where somebody can just stumble into your place of work or your, wherever you are, and you don't know what to do for that person. At least you can call that number and see if there can be someone to intervene to help. Because like Claire said, the reality is out of the need to protect themselves, they also do sometimes may present as aggressive. And we are not saying that, you should be trained and equipped to handle that situation. We're just saying that if you come across somebody who fits in these descriptions, someone who might not be necessarily as dangerous as you might think, or some other person near you might think, please do contact the authorities, because there is a family out there that is crying and in such distress, looking for their child. And I also want to take this opportunity to really, really thank the communities, at least the ones that we are a part of. And by this, I mean people who are affected by autism, people who are not affected by autism, who always share our flyers whenever, because as a community, whenever a child goes missing or a parent, shares with us that, something has happened, we are very quick to share these flyers, and we are always quick to share these pictures. And it's because of this engagement that we have been able to find these children. I really want to thank the radio stations that have really helped to make announcements about missing children, radio stations, social media personalities, people who have used their platforms in one way or another to help us find our children. We really appreciate you, and God bless you, because really there's nothing that is that's good enough or big enough to give you as a reward. Because parents who lose their children, I don't want to say lose, who have for that period of time, they really, really go through torture. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for even the people who are using this video to learn more about this, and people whose eyes are opened and shall be more vigilant about being helpful. We really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think also, as you're saying that, we want to thank the families, the people who have eventually taken in these children and welcomed them, given them a bath, given them clean clothes, given them a bed to sleep, given them food. There are many people out there who've done it in the different communities. And when they see the flyer, they say, I have the child. We thank you for that. And I think it's a practice we can try to do that if you see such a child, or even if at their police station, because whilst the police may have them, I think there have been cases, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but on our community where people say, let's go to the police station and take the child until the parents come. So we want to thank people who've even done that as well, to say, okay, the child has been located, but I will take them to somewhere warm, safe, feed them and clothe them. I think that's a very, very big thing, selfless thing. We thank you as well, because it's comforting for a mother, for a father to know my child is somewhere safe, where they are loved, where they are being taken care of until I can get there. So I think it's a big, big, big appeal And one of the major reasons we created this channel was to create that awareness, to the understand the signs, see the child, see the person, teenager, a young adult. How are they behaving? What is it? Sometimes we'll think they're under the influence of alcohol, it's substance abuse. Not necessarily. It could be that they have a condition and they just need redirection and some form of support to then be taken back to their families. Yeah,
That is true. Yeah.
and I think to ask the families as well to not cage the children.
Yeah, not to cage them, but also to give, every time maybe you experience something or you see that your child has experienced something negative, you use that as an opportunity to create the awareness. Because yes, sometimes it may not be that the child has run away, but you'll see something strange happening, like somebody attacking your child because they don't understand who they are.
Yes.
Yeah, so you use that as an opportunity to make them aware, so that the next time they experience that, their reaction will be different. Yeah.
And by the way, there's, I mean, it's an interesting thing to talk about, but because safety and security and generally the well-being of our children is something that we all want, whether your child, has special needs or not, there are some mechanisms. If some of us have children who have a propensity to do certain things, like it's not necessarily that they don't get the opportunity to see other places or to go out or to adventure. It's just that they just have like a habit.
They're curious.
They're curious.
They just,
Yes.
and they just, free spirit. They just want to be able to leave the house as and when. And I'm not saying encourage it. I'm just saying that there are certain scenarios where you have to adapt to your person. And actually, what Claire said was very important. I remember what Judith shared with us in a previous episode was that she introduced her child to people in the community. So the neighbors, up to like the boda stage.
Yes.
So the community truly knew that the son.
Yes.
So should anything ever happen, he can always be brought back home. But also it gives her comfort if he ever wants to just take a walk.
Yes.
And blow off some steam perhaps. She doesn't have to worry and think about, oh my God, how will he get back home? Because now he knows how to get to his home. She's shown him the route of how to get to his home. And so sometimes, because these are also human beings, remember, and this is especially for the older, the ones who are adults.
Yes.
We need to allow them to also have their own human existence.
That's very true.
Which is experiencing the world in their own version and on their own terms.
True.
So it would be great to teach our kids, how do you get home? This is, at least the surrounding areas. Don't go past this area because it's a bit dangerous, so you're now too far away. But the shop is over here, some of those things are really good. It's good for them as well to know that they can leave and return, and that they can live and be safe.
Yes.
And return.
And return.
Of course, notwithstanding the dangers of the world that are present, but just, for it also helps with their independence. And you could go even as far as being like take, those, is it Apple and Samsung tags that have been also spoken of, and wristbands. Everyone has come up with a different solution. Some have come up with wristbands that have like a home telephone number of the parents and stuff, necklaces. So that should a child or adult be found anywhere, at least there's some
There's a starting point.
there's some sort of identification. And I think I encourage that. Even if it's like a wallet sort of thing where, the child knows that, and especially for non-verbal, where that should anything happen and they're searching my person, let's say, like the police or somebody, at least they'll find a wallet, or they'll find, if I'm not able to communicate, that, hey, here, look at this piece of paper and help me find my people. So even us as parents in the community of people with autism, people on the spectrum, and children with special needs, we should be let us be more vigilant.
Yeah.
Let's not also take it for granted, because it is a risky environment out there. So let's whatever anybody is able to do, be it those tags of Samsung and Apple that tech devices, or even if it's just a wrist, something, even if it's a wallet, even if it's also helping. If your children are a little more advanced on the spectrum and they can memorize your number,
Yeah.
things that, safety is part of what we do as parents generally in raising our children. So let's also do our part and see how we can help ourselves with keeping our children safe, and generally also making our home environment safe. I think what Irene said was also very important, that you also have to kind of evaluate what's happening at home. That really hit home, because being a second born when the firstborn has special needs, you've literally come into a home where like all the focus and attention is already on that one child. And because you're neurotypical, before you're even able, I see myself doing this to my 3-year-old for his 11-year-old brother. And I'm like, yeah, you will be the one to protect your brother. Because I think it's because he already does it, even without us actually asking him to do anything of that. And now I am leaning onto it a little too much.
Yes.
Because he's very clear about people he doesn't want in his space. And people, so if he sees that you're like bad vibes, he doesn't hesitate to show you that you should stay clear from him. And his brother is all embracing, loves everybody, is good to everyone, and sometimes even the ones who are not good to him.
Yeah.
So naturally, as a parent, you also start saying, hey, maybe this child can help me when I'm not around.
I know.
But then we have to always remember that they are also an individual on their own. So that was something I thought really needed to also be emphasized. But to bring it also back, if our children are not safe at home, if there's something happening in the household, it's also very human for them to want to run away.
Yes. True.
So you also need to see are they being mistreated maybe when you're not there, maybe when you're not looking? Are they being fed? Do they feel loved? Do they feel like home accepted? Like home is a home, or is it a place that I just don't want to be a part of anymore? So those are all things. I think it's important for us to be aware of those safety issues, and for us to take responsibility of that. To take that role of responsibility to make a home safe for our children, so they can want to be there as well.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
And to give them purpose as well, because I think much as they'll be in the home, are you present with them? If they're ignored. Because you could all be there, but you're not with the child. So the child will go and do their own thing. They want to find a space where there's something to do. So if we create purpose for the child, they know I get up in the morning and I also leave the house. But if everybody, there are 7 people in the house, everybody goes, I stay day in, day out. Beyond that gate, what is there? That's what's
the curiosity.
What's beyond that thing that takes these loved ones away
and leave me
here?
Yes.
They go. There's something there.
Let me also go and see what's there.
So they're going to go and look and find it. So let's create a purpose, even if it's a routine. Every day we'll come back and the child knows, put on shoes, let's go, take a walk to the shop, whatever. But give them a purpose. Get them busy, get them engaged. When their mind is busy, they don't now have thoughts of trying to create activity, I think. So let's be mindful in all that we're doing, and accepting. We hope that we've created some level of awareness and shared some tips. Kindly comment and tell us, was this topic helpful? Would you like us to go a little deeper, a little more into this topic of security? Do you have a story to share? Kindly contact us through the comments or DM us. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, and tune in again next time for all things autism and more.